Okay, welcome everybody. It's February 3rd. This is the Kubernetes Cluster API Azure Provider office hours meeting. We have this every 2 weeks. We are part of the SIG Cluster Lifecycle project, and as such, we try to abide by the CNCF rules of conduct for this meeting, which basically boils down to everybody be polite to each other, and let's try and use the raise hand button in Zoom so that we don't stomp on each other. If you have a minute, please sign your name, sign in under the attendees list. And let's go on recurring topics. Do we have anybody who's here for the first time or wants to introduce themselves?
Yep.
Say hello.
I would go first. Just want to introduce myself here in the provider. So I'm Stefan. I usually work on the core provider. Bunch of you probably already saw me there. I just want to say hello, essentially. I'm not sure if you already noticed, but we are currently looking from the VMware side at a bunch of providers, and we're looking at, I don't know, who's running which linter and what validation tools we have, and then we just try to propose if there is some useful stuff that someone might not have already to add that stuff. So yeah, so if you see me somewhere on some issues and PRs, that's probably because of that.
We've all definitely seen you around, I think, and those are great. Thank you. Anyone else? No? Cool. I guess we'll do a milestone review at the end. And let's go on to open discussion. I just put this in there. I didn't want to get bogged down, but maybe the cert manager issue obviously cratered most of our PRs yesterday, and I'm just curious where we're at and if there's anything we still need to do, or if it was all upstream. I guess I'm asking you, Cecile, or maybe David, you know.
I can take this one. So there's 2 CAPI patch releases for 0.4 and 1.0 that fixed cluster CTL in those. So as soon as those were out, users should have been back to good. In order to test our end-to-end test, we had to get those versions backported into our release branches that were testing of those previous versions. So those PRs merged, I think, midday yesterday. So we're good on that front. And then the CAPI 1.1.0 release fixed it for the 1.1 branch. And we also included that in the main branch. So the main branch is also fixed. So I think we're good on every front, unless I'm missing something, but we should be back to running on all the branches. Would be worth checking maybe this morning to see if there are any failures.
Great, thanks for the brain dump. Any other questions about that issue? Cool. James, you want to talk about moving Windows Containerd to default template?
Yeah, so we now have Windows Containerd, and it's been a few months. We have all the upstream tests running against it, and it's actually more stable than the Docker shim implementation. With 124 coming without Docker shim, I'd like to appreciate the Docker shim implementation that we have in CAPC and move forward to only using Containerd and making all the implementations there. Right now, if you were to use the cluster CTL template, you would get a Windows. If you used Windows, you would end up with a Docker shim implementation. I would like to swap that all over to Containerd for the next release and have Docker shim be the older one and things like that. So I don't know if anybody has any objections to that or thoughts around it, but I just wanted to announce it here.
I saw that with 123.3, we didn't do a non-Containerd Windows. Was that on purpose? Have we started this already, or is it?
Oh, I don't think that was on purpose, but
should I fill that hole? We just made the Containerd releases, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, we should probably do that since we're doing it. But
okay, I can do that. That just takes a minute. Any questions, comments, concerns, as we say, about switching to Containerd by default for 124 on? Nope. All right. Cecile, you want to talk about the 111 release?
Yeah, this is more of a PSA, I guess. But there was a rollout in AKS this week, which caused a regression in our AKS implementation. TLDR is they changed the name, the keys of tags that we were relying on to determine, like to match a VMSS to a pool name. The tags that were changed in question are part of the managed resource group, which I think we're not supposed to be depending on or using or changing, which is part of, it's documented as not a supported thing to do. So for now, we've fixed the tags. Thanks, Zane, for opening that PR. For the long term, I think we should find a plan to not rely on those tags anymore, just in case, you know, things might change again. It's just not something we should rely on. So we need to look into alternatives, but for now, the regression is fixed, but that requires everyone to use the new release that has the fix if you're using AKS. And if you're not, you're going to quickly realize you're not using it because it's not going to let you build notables. So make sure you update to 1.1.1 if you're using AKS. And yeah, any questions about that?
Cool. You've got the next topic as well.
Cool. So yeah, and then this is also PSA. I opened 2 PRs to add James, who's here, and Jack Francis, 2 reviewers. They've both been, you know, contributing for a while and making reviews, and we're getting more and more PRs. So this is a good time to expand our reviewers. And also, I guess this, I also want to say, if anyone else wants to become a reviewer, like we're, you know, happy to help you, mentor you, and onboard you to the contributor ladder. So please reach out to one of us, and we can try to make sure you're getting exposed to the things you need to be exposed to in order to become a reviewer. And congrats, James and Jack, and thanks for all the contributions.
Definitely. Any questions about reviewers? Anybody else have anything we should add to the discussion? I've gone through everything on here. Do we want to do a milestone review? Cecile, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if we've been keeping the milestone up to date, but we should check in on the release and see. So last time we did a release was 1.1, that was mid-December before the holidays. Cappy just did a 1.1 release. I was hoping we would do a 1.2 around this time, or at least mid-February. I don't know how we're feeling about that. I know there's a lot of stuff in flight that's not done yet. There's some async PRs like that are still waiting for merge. There's the AKS different features that we want to add that are still kind of in progress. And there's also the cluster class template refactor, which is not, it's not merged yet. So I don't know if we want to give ourselves more time to include those. If we think we already have a lot to release, then we should do an intermediate release. For now, what do people think?
Strong opinions? My general feeling is we should default to doing more frequent releases because it's easy to fall into the trap of, oh, well, if we just wait for, you know, these things to land, then we'll have like a nice set of features. But But you can always kind of be there, and we want to make the releases lower stakes and all that. So just in general, I go for more frequent releases, but I don't know. I'm not dogmatic. What do other people think?
I guess it's hard to see if we had like a board that said, we've got 2 more async PRs, then maybe we'd wait for those. Yeah, but if we had like 6 of them, we might hold off, kind of thing. This is kind of my take. Or if there's like 2 or 3 more ACAS ones that are required, but kind of trying to identify what those, like how big is the gap between getting those in and getting out another release and what we have ready to go. I don't know if anybody else has a better sense of that.
Cheyenne, go ahead.
Yeah, I also think like we should be, since there are just like 2 async PRs, or I think like 3, we should just wait for that to get merged before like making a new release. But in general, like I agree with Matt that we should be making frequent releases. But just in this case, like let's just wait for the async PRs. That's my opinion.
What do we think of targeting maybe mid-February for the next release, like around February 15th, February 20th? I think that should get us enough time to get those PRs in. But like Matt said, I don't think we should like always wait, because otherwise it's an ongoing growing release and we're never gonna get it. There's always more stuff to do. So
Makes sense to me. The async Valentine's release.
sounds great. All right.
So we don't want to do milestone review per se, or do we think we're good?
We can if it's useful to people. I don't think our milestone is up to date, but we can check and try to make it up to date, or we can just.
What do people think? You want to slog through the milestone and update it for the next 15, 20 minutes, or should we call it good for today?
Yeah, if no one has strong desires to go through the milestone, let's not do that and bore people through it. But I guess more of a meta topic is, what do we think of this meeting? I feel like I was hoping this would be more of a like, let's help users out, and like, people who are using CAPZ can come and we can, hear feedback or try to unblock people, talk about what's currently going on in development, and see if like we're aligned features. We're not getting many questions or many people coming and asking things. It's been mostly like the maintainers kind of like talking amongst themselves, and I feel like it's a lot of the context gets lost because it's just like a tiny piece of it, but a lot of the talking we do is like asynchronous during the week when we go back and forth on Slack. And so I guess is this useful to people? Like, are you getting anything from like hearing us talk about like announcing things, or would it be more useful if it was more like hands-on like deep dives? Or I'm just trying to see, don't want to waste people's times. But if you're saying, this is great, we like this, let's keep doing this, then let's do that.
I mean, I think it's useful just to check in, see what everybody's doing. There's always at least a couple things I wasn't aware of here, but I also wonder if, maybe we could have some like crowd pleaser each time, like we could try and have a demo or try and have a hands-on thing for each one, that would be a way we could say, hey, make sure you come to office hours if you miss the demo of blank. Because we certainly have time for that. What happened with you? We had an idea of having a separate sort of user-oriented meeting, but that was probably taking too much bandwidth. Is that still alive, or?
Yeah, we tried doing it once last week at the second most popular time. To be fair, I didn't give much of a heads up, but I think the morning of I posted in Slack and only like 3 people showed up. So it was fine. We like went through stuff, but it wasn't, a hit or anything. So we could try doing that like, more frequently. Yeah.
And Ashutosh is suggesting maybe we could do some code walkthroughs sometime. Yeah, exactly. I think one thing like that would be enough to make this more of a can't miss meeting.
Yeah, I mean, my goal isn't like, to be clear, it's not to like make people come, right? Like if it's useful, people should come, but I don't want to try to, but what would be useful is to like hear, people that we're doing this for, what they want or what would be useful to them, like how we can better serve their time. And also like if we can hear some feedback, like, because I think a lot of it is like we're trying to assess like if we're going the right direction or like if people are having trouble. And that would be really great to like hear from those people who are actually using the project.
David, sorry, I just saw your hand was up.
Hey, no worries. Thank you. Even outside of the point of view of getting more folks to come, the code walkthroughs could be super useful in the recorded nature of the meeting as well. So, I mean, we could, mark on each one of those videos, we did a code walkthrough of this area. So as folks are interested in like learning more about that area, they could go back and find that video and end up learning about that area as they jump into it. This could be really good for like in the fullness of time, we could have a pretty good walkthrough on the different areas of the code in this project. I don't know, something to think about.
Sorry, just making a note. Any other comments or ideas about this meeting?
Yeah, I think I like that idea. And just in general, I think it's also on us maintainers to try to, be a bit more organized and maybe announce these things ahead of time. So like maybe like Wednesday, like before a meeting, like the day before, we can try to, decide, or maybe a few days before, but once we know that Wednesday, we can decide what the meeting's going to be about and have like one main topic or like, code walkthrough or like release backlog grooming or something that we're doing in that meeting. If we don't have anything, then we shouldn't have the meeting. And then if there are no other topics, and then we can do like, announcement, like say, this is what we're going to be doing in this meeting. And then we can leave a time at the end for general Q&A and just anything people want to bring up. That way it's like kind of clear like what you're showing up for. And it's not just like, we show up, there's no agenda, and then people come up with things. And maybe there's something interesting that comes up, maybe not. But you don't want to miss it, so you show up anyways, kind of thing. So I think that would help. We can try that a few weeks and see how it goes. Cool.
All right. So it sounds like we have some kind of rough consensus around trying to focus this meeting on a topic so we can create a little more interest in it. And also so we don't feel like we're just showing up to show up. Anyone else have anything to say on this or anything else? All right, I guess we'll call it a day. Thanks for coming, everybody. We'll see you here in a couple of weeks. And we'll have a focus. Oh, wait, hold on. Ashutosh, you raised your hand and I don't want to drop before you.
No, I just gave a thumbs up. So
Oh, okay,
Thank
gotcha.
you.
Sorry.
no problem. Thank you, people. Take care.
Thanks. Thanks for taking
Thanks for
notes, Shyam.
hosting, Matt.
Yeah.